SuperTalk Mississippi media production.
State Treasurer David McRae has put hundreds of millions back into the hands of Mississippi's citizens, expanding the state's affordable college and career savings program and also returning record amounts of unclaimed money. Check out how Treasurer David McRae's office can help you, your business, or your organization. Treasury.ms.gov.
This is Gerard Gibert, and thank you for listening to MidDays here on SuperTalk Mississippi.
MidDays with Gerard Gibert is on the air. MidDays with Gerard Gibert is powered by C-Spire. Power your home or business with C-Spire Fiber. To learn more, visit supertalk.fm/C-Spire. C-Spire Fiber powers SuperTalk Mississippi. Get ready to go beyond the headlines and join a meaningful conversation with people from around the state. You're listening to MidDays with Gerard Gibert here on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Hey, how y'all doing? It's me. I'm back again, filling in for Gerard Gibert. We'll be live tomorrow from the Mississippi Armed Forces Museum at Camp Shelby to get you ready for Memorial Day weekend, which is going to be how we're starting as well. My name is Scott Sands. Thank you for allowing me to hang out with you today for a few hours on Super Talk Mississippi. And as I said, we're just going to dive right in to start preparing you for Memorial Day weekend. I know as Cammie and I have been planning the show today, we've had a couple of guests that had to back out, and I figured out why. The big, beautiful bill passed last night, or really early this morning, and every member of Congress is now on a plane leaving Washington, D.C. for the holiday weekend. Captain Chris Turnipseed is joining me now from the Mississippi Highway Patrol. Looks like you're in your car. Are you about to pull somebody over? Can we watch a traffic stop in real time?
Good morning, Scott. No, I'm not actually pulling anybody over. I'm actually out in a parking lot down here in Pearl, Mississippi. We are going through our preparations and preparing to graduate a new class of highway patrolmen for tomorrow. And we are out here doing our graduation ceremony and rehearsals and preparing these new troopers to get ready to take the oath tomorrow. And we'll be sending them out on the roads to protect the fine people of the great state of Mississippi here pretty soon is what we're prepping for this weekend, along with the Memorial Day weekend. We're getting ready for that as well.
Yeah, I'm glad to see you're parked. Otherwise, I was going to admonish you for not wearing a seatbelt.
Yes, yeah, I'm definitely parked.
We're watching, of course, on
next to me. It's stationary too.
If you're watching the video on supertalk.fm, you know what I'm talking about. So tell me about the graduating class, and are you having a tough time recruiting highway patrolmen in Mississippi? It seems like some of the law enforcement officers I talk to around the country are having a tough time recruiting for police departments, for sheriff's departments around the country. How is Mississippi's recruiting effort?
Well, there are different times. I would say compared to back, I've been on for 26 years now, so I hate to say how old I am, but times are different as far as recruiting goes. Back in those days, it was a lot more applicants. Here lately, we really have to go out and I'm also director over recruiting too, so we have to do a lot of work on going out and talking and speaking engagements, going to different events, and we really have to focus on our recruiting efforts to get the numbers we need to have a candidate pool, to start one of these classes. It's challenging. It's a different time, it's a different generation, and you've got to sell this job, this career to these young people in different ways than we had to back in my day. There have been times where the numbers were challenging. This last class, since we really recruiting, had some decent numbers that apply. But this class here, that will graduate tomorrow will be, we're 38 new troopers. So that's not a huge class. It's not one of the smaller ones, but it's not a huge class. But getting into patrol school is a challenge in itself, going through the background process and doing all the things that you have to do to qualify. But then, you get into patrol school itself. That's a whole nother beast of itself to stay there and hang in there. So, 38, I believe there was, it was close to 80, I think, that started this class. I don't have the number off the top of my head, but it was around that area. But I know we got 38 of those graduating tomorrow of the best of the crew that applied for class 69. So they're excited. They can see the finish line. They're in there preparing. Actually, right now, I'm out here on the line speaking with y'all, and you can just feel the excitement in the room about these young men and women who are fixing to join our ranks. And
it's a lot of hard work, and it's certainly a commitment to keeping the public safe. And if you've been on duty for 26 years, there's a good chance you may have pulled me over on Highway 49 at some point in my life.
I was probably not on 49. If you were on 25 coming up, I was between Jackson and Starville. That was my corridor pretty much. The Mississippi State students, a lot of back in the days when I worked there, they probably might have got a chance to get my autograph there a time or two.
Captain Chris Turnipseed here on Middays with Gerard Gibert. I'm Scott Sands. We're talking about the Highway Patrol, and we'll talk about getting ready for Memorial Day weekend as well. But I'm fascinated by the recruiting class. As you're talking about these 38 troopers who are graduating today, are the standards for the Highway Patrol more difficult than local law enforcement, than police departments and county sheriff's departments around the state?
I wouldn't say the standards are more difficult because, anytime you raise that right hand, you take that oath to protect someone, whether it be your city, your county, or your state. And the standards are high across the board. So I wouldn't say the standards are higher. Now, our training it definitely got a reputation of being some of the toughest training, not just in the state, but, in the nation for sure. So it's a trial by fire, and we want the best of the best. We have a job. We operate on a lot of solo shifts. Sometimes you'll have one trooper just due to manpower issues. You got one trooper maybe covering, 4 or 5 counties by himself. So he's got to be pretty much self-contained and able to handle himself and to meet those demands. So it does take not just, the physical training, but the mental and the emotional, and being able to stand up to the rigors and the pressures of the job, because you might not, you might be out there on a call in the middle of the night, outnumbered by yourself. And our goal is, the training's hard because we want all these guys and gals to make it back home safely. We celebrated Police Week last week, where we do our memorials and pay honor and respect to all those that have lost their lives in the line of duty. And our goal is to keep these young men and women, the ones that graduate this patrol school, to keep them off that memorial wall. So that's why our training is the way it is. That's the ultimate goal. You're going to have some that can withstand the pressure and some that can't, that quit, that go home. And we would much rather you quit and go home than, get your face or your name etched in stone on that memorial wall. That's generally overall the goal. And to keep the standards high, to get the best of the best we can get. Law enforcement is a good career. It's not one of the highest paying careers. So it's, you've got to be in this job with a mindset that you're going to be a public servant. If you're not public service minded, when you enter this job, you're probably not going to enjoy it, because, you don't do this for the pay. You do it because it is a calling. It is a different line of work. And there's so many lines of work out there that if you don't have the calling to do that, you're not going to make it in that line of work very long. And law enforcement is one of those fields, definitely, what you have to deal with and contend with, and things that you see, on a day-to-day basis, if you're not prepared for it, you're not mentally tough, it can get the best of you.
For these recruits, is there a bad assignment, a district that the rookies are assigned that nobody else that's been in the Highway Patrol for a long time? What counties do you not want to have to patrol?
Well, I mean, I'm not going to throw shade at anyone's county. But that's not usually how this is handled when you get your assignment. Back in the day, and it is a recruiting thing too. Back in the day, I started out, I went to the very top right-hand corner of the state, Tishomingo County. Never heard of it. Never been to Iuka, Mississippi in my life. And when they gave me my duty assignment, I'm from Winston County. Never heard. They told me I was going to Iuka, and I looked around. And I was like, "Where in the world is that?" It wasn't.
I need to find that on a map.
It was a man. It was a manpower need. They had no troop. They sent me and another guy up there. They didn't have any troopers. So it was a manpower where you needed the most manpower at the time. You know, right now we have vacancies and opens in about every district. So we've been able to, with these last, few classes, several classes, and it also helps recruiting, and cost of living. We can send these guys and girls back close to home so they don't have to go establish a second residence or sell a home or do all that stuff. That's probably one of the biggest drawbacks to the Highway Patrol for a long time is having to relocate. But generally now we try the best we can to get someone close enough to home where they don't have to, uproot and totally change their living situation. And that's been one of the probably big advantages to help us in recruiting, has been able to get guys and girls back close to home. That's a hard place to work now. I don't, when you come out and you're a brand new trooper and you're on fire and you're ready to save the world, sometimes it's difficult to enforce the law in a community where everybody and everybody all went to school with you, and I was, well, don't write me a ticket, that you do got to be who you are.
Got to do your job.
So that it does present it does present its challenges because everybody's your buddy when you come back home.
Until you get pulled over at 2:00 in the morning. Captain, we're up against a break here. Are you able to stick around for another segment? I want to talk about Memorial Day weekend travel for just a couple of minutes.
Yes, sir.
Captain Chris Turnipseed from the Highway Patrol here on Middays with Gerard Gibert. I'm Scott Sands. Super Talk Mississippi continues next.
This segment of Middays with Gerard Gibert is brought to you by Covington County Hospital in Collins, where your health matters.
Middays with Gerard Gibert.
Let's do this.
On Super Talk, Mississippi.
Let's go.
It is Middays with Gerard Gibert. I'm Scott Sands. You can find me on X at Scott Sands Media. Thanks for letting me hang out with you today. C-Spire text line is open, 601-879-4395. Please don't text and drive. I'll make sure to say that with our guest here on the show, Captain Chris Turnipseed from the Mississippi Highway Patrol. Captain, it's great to have you on. I do appreciate your time and all the hard work that the troopers around the state are doing. Do you notice an increase in traffic and problems every time there's a holiday weekend like we've got with Memorial Day?
Yes. Well, I mean, anytime you have a special event or special occasion, holiday weekend, you will see a tick in traffic. I mean, it's Memorial Day. It's an important holiday, what it represents, of course, but it's also a time people go out with families. They kind of start their summer vacation period. I mean, it's the summer. We're saying hello to summer pretty much here. And this is usually the first weekend. People head to the beach or to the campgrounds, to the lakes, or wherever it is that they like to go and try. You will see it on traffic, probably starting to, Friday afternoon. Traffic will start to uptick, and then the weekend, there will be some traffic peaks, but usually Friday and the Monday, the actual Memorial Day, people use that as a day to go back because most people have to go back into work on Tuesday. So Friday and Monday will probably be your heavy travel days. Saturday and Sunday will be some good traffic on those days too, but probably not like Friday or Monday. It's usually the first day of the holiday and then the last day itself. So yeah, it will be more issues. You got more traffic cars on the road. You're going to have the capability for more accidents and crashes. So that's what we're expecting to happen, and that's what we're going to try to combat and try to keep those numbers down low. Everybody's going to be out and going, and we're going to be out watching and monitoring, being seen, being present, and just putting a presence out there. Hopefully act as a deterrent to get people to do the right thing, slow down. Don't drive distracted. Of course, you gave me some props on that right there. And definitely if they're going to partake in any kind of celebratory substance, alcohol, whatever, that they do get a designated driver for the weekend. Those are your big trouble things. And then slow down. It's just speed. Just slow down, too.
Let's talk about speed for If we can talk about speeding for a quick second, what are you looking for when you're on duty? If I'm on I-10 and doing 10 miles over, am I going to get pulled over? Is the line that you're looking at? What kind of discretion do you have? Is it 15 miles over, 20 miles over? What
that depends on the trooper. That depends on a lot of things. There's no number because I'm not going to give this is what you can do and what you can't do. I'll just say the speed limit is the speed limit. The trooper, that depends on that trooper, what time of day it is, how many citations he's already written. He might be so he might let you get away with a little bit more. He might just come off a lunch and let his food digest or something. But he might be fresh into his shift and he's ready to get out there and get busy. So those numbers are going to vary. So I don't want to set anybody up, and I don't want anybody getting stopped and going, well, Captain Turnipseed said on SuperTalk the other day that I could get away with 10 miles an hour over, because that ain't going to help you.
So
I can't write you a permission slip to do anything. So I'm going to say if the speed limit says 65, you better be pretty close to it just to be safe, because I don't want y'all blaming me.
Do all you guys have like do you have like a favorite hiding spot?
I used to, back when I had a few spots I like to sit and watch and monitor traffic. Definitely. I mean, most do. Some guys like to roll up and down the road and do it, patrol moving. Some of us like to sit still. I think it's simple if you're sitting still, just let everybody come to you. It's safer. You don't have to turn around and usually travel or to get traffic stopped, but definitely most troopers, especially us old school guys, had some pretty good hiding spots. Mississippi's got some pretty good landscape to put these patrol cars up in. A
lot of good trees in the medians along the way. Do you get annoyed by drivers who are flashing their headlights to let people know that you're sitting up ahead of them?
I don't. I really don't, because despite what everybody thinks about ticket revenue and quotas, I don't care what makes you slow down. If somebody's flashing their headlights at you and you slow down, then slow down. I don't care how you do it. If you look on Waze and there's a trooper up ahead or a cop up ahead and you slow down because of that, then more power to you. I don't have to deal with you. So that don't bother me. Now, as the young trooper, I wanted to stop you. I wanted to be whatever it takes now just to get you slowed down and stop. Talk about wearing seatbelts too, just for a second, because this is Click It or Ticket Month.
Click It or Ticket Month is national. It's a big effort,
and we will be paying a lot of attention to wearing occupant restraints, whether you're the driver, the passenger, child restraint, or whatever. That's one of the most simple, basic things you can do to keep yourself safe when you're driving in a car. But you would be. Me and Gerard used to just be appalled, because I'd come in on after the holiday wrap up and give him the number of tickets we wrote for, occupant, restraint violations over the weekend. And I'm like, I don't know. I don't get it. I can't. I mean, that's the easiest, most non-lazy thing you can do is just, pull that thing over and put it in this little piece right over here. So I don't know what's so challenging about that, but you'll be surprised.
I used to be 100 pounds heavier, and it was, when I was 100 pounds heavier, it was very uncomfortable. But now I try to always do it, as annoying as it may be sometimes. Will you pull somebody over as a primary offense if you notice they're not wearing a seatbelt? And I don't even know how you can tell. If they're driving by at 65 miles an hour on the highway, how can you tell?
Well, different troopers got different sets of skills. Some of you can see it. If your windows are too dark, you might not be able to, but I pull up to a stop sign. I mean, I could come down in Lakeland here and probably write 200 seatbelt tickets just riding in traffic, riding up beside somebody and looking into the car. If I really wanted to do that, I'm not going to do that if you're on Lakeland, so calm down. But that it's not as hard as you think it is, and you'd be surprised at just the people that the gumption when we on a traffic stop for speeding or some other violation don't even bother to put the thing on when we walk up to the car. So. I don't know. I wish, as a state and as a country, we could do something. I don't know what you would do. People say it's your right, our right. It's my life. If I don't want to wear a seatbelt, you shouldn't be able to make me to. They try to tie it to constitutional rights and all. But I always say this, it might be your right But guess who's right is going to be to have to go contact your wife or your husband or your next of kin and tell them you're dead. I don't get that choice to make. I'm going to have to do that. I'm going to have to make a next of kin notification when you die as a result of not wearing your seatbelt. So don't put me in that situation. Don't put your family or your kids in that situation where they have to live without you because you're out here on the road wanting to exercise your constitutional rights. Don't be selfish. Think about the people that count on you, depend on you, that love you, that want you around, and you know, you would do anything to protect your family, and you're a part of that family, so do what it takes to protect yourself so they don't have to live without you. That's what
would you rather have that
in public speaking.
Which is a great approach to take, and you're absolutely right. It's the people that you leave behind. Would you rather have the constitutional argument over wearing a seatbelt or the debate with a sovereign citizen?
I mean, the constitutional debate on highway is all one and the same. One and the same to me, but, you know, and I always say, you know, if you're on a state-funded highway, then you have to abide by state law. I mean, it don't matter what nation or what.
Right. Captain Chris Turnipseed.
You claim you belong. You're on a road by the taxpayers of Mississippi. And we are paid by the taxpayers of Mississippi to make sure those roads are not just operable and safe, but, you know, make sure what they can to be safe on them. So that's our job. It's not much of a debate as people want it to be. I think they just come, you know, a lot of people get on Facebook and go to YouTube University and they think they have a law degree on, you know, what the law is. But no, the law is the law, and I'm going to put my seatbelt on. My family's going to put theirs on. I don't have to tell them to because we love each other. We want to take care of each other, and we want to be here for each other. That's why we do it. It don't have nothing to do with the law.
Captain Turnipseed, thank you so much for your time. And another reminder, if you are going to enjoy any sort of adult beverages over the weekend for the holidays or any time, don't drink and drive. Call a cab, call an Uber, get a friend to drive you home. Stay where you are. Stay off the roads because you're not only endangering yourself, but everybody else on the highways and the streets of every city in the state if you're going to drink and drive. But so don't do that. And Captain, you and your fellow highway patrolmen, stay safe this weekend, and congratulations to all the recruits graduating today.
Yes, sir. We appreciate you, Scott. Just last driving tip. Remember, brother, anything, just don't be selfish. As long as you're not selfish, you ought to be safe out here on the road. Think about everybody around you, and hopefully things will take care of themselves. Thank you for having us on this morning, Scott.
Thank you, Captain. We'll talk soon. It's Middays with Gerard Gibert.
Yes,
the C Spire text line open, 601-879-4395 here in the Element Wealth Studios on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
6 days on the road and I'm gonna make it home tonight. 6 days on the road and I'm gonna make it home tonight.
Middays with Gerard Gibert.
It is
on Super Talk, Mississippi.
Great to be here for Gerard. My name is Scott Sands. Kind of continuing with our Memorial Day preparations, Lynn Weaver is joining us on Super Talk Mississippi from Grills of Mississippi. Lynn, it's nice to meet you.
Scott, thank you so much for allowing me to be here today. Yes, it's that time of year. We're right at the beginning of, I guess we'd call our quote-unquote barbecue season. However, we're lucky enough in the state of Mississippi that we really don't have a season. We can pretty much take care of our outside cooking year-round. And for us at Grills of Mississippi and as a competitive barbecue team, that opens up a lot of doors for us. Before we get started today, I would like to take a moment to thank all of the fallen soldiers, all of the Gold Star families that continue to pay the ultimate price for my opportunity to sit here and have this conversation today.
Well said.
It's sometimes I think we get lost in what the true meaning of Memorial Day is, and especially whenever you think about the fact that it was created right here in Mississippi, the holiday itself. So I think it's always important that we start with that.
It's not about going out to have beers with your friends and barbecuing, although that's become part of it. We should we should pause to remember what it's truly about and who it's for.
I could not agree more. Yes, we do have the opportunity to spend time with our loved ones, with our family and friends, and part of that is the meal and everything that goes along with it. However, there are some things that we probably should talk about and some things that we need to be mindful of as we go into that process. For some people, that's a very daunting task. For others, it's just old hat. We learn it from our grandparents. We learn it from our dad, and those things continue to carry on. I like to say that it's weird here in the state of Mississippi because we don't have a barbecue ID as of such. You know, we're not Memphis. We're not Kansas City. We're not a Texas kind of style. We're our own deal. And what's funny about that is for us to not have a barbecue identity of such, we have more world champions that come out of Mississippi than anywhere else.
Is that right?
Oh, yeah, without a doubt. Matter of fact, a Mississippian just recently won the Memphis in May contest, which is one of the biggest in the world. It's actually an international contest of 240-something teams, I think, were there this year. It's a fellow by the name of Mr. Heath Riles, which I'm sure many of y'all have seen his products. He's from Hernando. I could go on and on and on with the list.
So if you had to try to pinpoint a style that's most popular or most prevalent in the state, what would that style be?
I think it would be a whole lot easier to describe the flavor profiles. We borrow a little bit from everybody that's around us. We have the Kansas City sweet element in our barbecue. We also have the Memphis vinegar and a little bit of heat there. We like the texture of Texas barbecue. We use some of the fruit woods and some of the fruit juices in our barbecue from Georgia. So it's kind of an amalgamation of everything. And with that said, it has created, without a doubt, the absolute finest barbecue in the world. And I would say that without hesitation or mental reservation, having trouble with my words today.
You and me both.
It's just one of those days. But it's really neat if you start to follow that progression. The number of barbecue teams that are out there, the number of world champion barbecue teams, which, like I said, the list is as long as my arm. Here in the metro, we had a member of our barbecue community win the whole hog competition at another contest that happened at the exact same time as Memphis in May in Memphis. It's called Smoke Slam. That is Fireman John McKinnon out of Madison, Mississippi. Just another example.
So what's the difference between grilling and barbecuing, if there is one? Do you guys look down on people who just throw meat on a grill? Do you want them to smoke a brisket for 20 hours? Is there
absolutely not?
To be pure, what's the best way to barbecue this weekend?
It's what's best for you. It depends, of course, on the equipment that you have. It has a lot to do with the proteins that you're cooking, the amount of time that you have to prepare those.
And the longer the better, usually, right?
In some cases. I don't want to cook a steak low and slow.
No,
that's
true.
Just doesn't work.
Throw that on the grill for like 3 minutes aside.
So it's one of those deals that it really depends on the equipment that you have, the amount of the protein that you're cooking, what your desired outcome is. Because there's several things, such as chicken, that you can cook low and slow if you're looking for a certain outcome, which would be a more supple, juicier type texture, as opposed to a grilled piece of chicken that's going to have a more of a crust and a little bit drier consistency, which both are great. Don't misunderstand me. It just is a matter of what you prefer.
And what you want to do. I don't have the opportunity to barbecue, to grill as much as I would like. I live in an apartment complex with no balcony, so I'm not able to set a grill out on the porch and grill out whenever I want. But I've got friends who have these elaborate smokers that cook everything on their smoker, from breakfast, lunch to dinner. And every year I look forward at Thanksgiving. We all get together at like 4 o'clock in the morning, sometimes earlier, and smoke everybody from the cigar shops turkeys that day for like 8 hours, smoking cigars, drinking bourbon, smoking turkeys for 8 hours on this massive smoker. And that's one of the most enjoyable days of the year to me.
Well, that's what barbecue is. Even at the competitive level, It's about the community. It's about having the opportunity to get together. And ultimately, that's what drew me into the entire activity, for lack of a better word. However, obviously smoking with or cooking food with fire has been around since the dawn of time. It's hard to explain what those relationships mean unless you're part of that group. It's hard. I tell people all the time that this barbecue thing is the hardest thing in the world for me to explain, because I no longer hunt and fish. I don't do any of that. I spend way too much time, way too much money in this world, and I don't apologize. This is one thing that I can tell my grandmother about.
You get to eat well.
Right.
Somebody on the C Spire text line wants to know if you'll call out the pellet smoker chumps.
No, I won't call them out, and I'm going to tell you why. It's a live fire situation. It just so happens that live fire that's in that fire pot happens to be controlled with a fan and some type of computer. Now, that doesn't make it bad. Please don't think it does. I own a pellet grill. I use it competitively. I think every apparatus has its own purpose. And if you talk to my wife, she'd tell you that I've got way too many of those. As a matter of fact, I think there's 13 sitting on my patio right now.
It seems like a perfectly reasonable number.
Well, I ask her whenever she has something to say about that. I ask her how many pairs of shoes she has, and then all of a sudden I'm on the couch.
You're on the couch for the night.
Right.
We're talking to Lynn Weaver, Grills of Mississippi. Lynn, what tips, what recommendations would you have for people who are going to grill or smoke out this weekend?
I would start with the most important tool that you could possibly have in your arsenal when it comes to barbecue. A good digital read thermometer is integral. And in my humble opinion, that's more important than the apparatus that you're going to cook on. I could not tell you anymore at this moment in my life how long it takes to cook a steak. I can tell you that I want my steak to come off that grill at 124 degrees. And once you get
I watched Chef Gordon Ramsay, and he touches it and knows immediately what the temperature is.
The problem with that, and where the whole thing falls down, as far as I'm concerned, is every piece of meat's different, every animal's different. So those textures, whenever you're trying to judge doneness based on how it feels, tends to change. And I know that the temperatures don't lie. And that would be my first suggestion. The next thing is to make sure and make a plan. If I was cooking, let's say you're cooking on Sunday, I would start that process Saturday. I would make sure that I had all my stuff ready. I would go ahead and take care of any sides that I had. I'd make sure that I had proper food storage plan, because food safety is definitely a thing. And people don't think about it so much when you're dealing with your family, especially when you're out by the pool and you're
Are you saying we don't care about the safety of our family? We don't care if we become sick?
No.
Because you might be right.
Don't put words in my mouth. It's just one of those things that we don't think about and we don't plan for. For example, I would, serving things like cold slaw or some type of cold salad or something that has a mayonnaise-based sauce with it.
That's got to be in the fridge.
Well, that's what I was fixing to say. The first thing that I'm going to do is make sure that once I serve it, I put it in something cold. 40 degrees and below, or if it keep cold things cold, hot things hot, 165 degrees and above for any of your proteins that's come off the grill.
Lynn Weaver, Grills of Mississippi. Stick around for another segment. I want to ask you a couple other things and learn about the company, too.
Absolutely.
Middays with Gerard Gibert here on SuperTalk Mississippi, and the C Spire text line 601-879-4395, or you can find me on X. I am at Scott Sands Media.
Hey, this is Bob.
Are we going to do this? Middays with Gerard Gibert.
Keep rolling. 3, 2, 1.
on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
In the Element Wealth Studios, I'm Scott Sands for Gerard Gibert and Lynn Weaver, Girls of Mississippi in studio. Rhino is very disappointed you didn't bring food with you today, Lynn.
I know it. I just let it fall down. I have no other words for it.
Very, very disappointing. Tell me about Girls of Mississippi.
I'd love to. First of all, I'm going to give you a little bit of a story that I've not been a huge part of. However, Mr. Jonathan Huddleston and his family grew this business very organically in a very Mississippi way. And Mr. Huddleston, of course, would have been with you today, but he recently had some back surgery, so he's recuperating. So they sent in me, I guess, the lefty, to make it happen.
Without food.
Without food. I know I let it fall down again. Like I said, I got work to do, I guess.
Right.
Grills of Mississippi is truly a all-encompassing outdoor supply store. If you cook it outdoors, they've got it. I don't know how else to say it. They're over 770 sauces, rubs, and marinades for anything that you can imagine, from all the proteins, including fish, shrimp. They have we have a small meat counter that we keep fresh-cut meat, keep some frozen fish, those type of products. 12 different lines of grills. They are what's considered a diamond dealer for Rectech grills, which we're very proud of, and they are a top-level dealer for Weber. In the pellet world, we move a lot of product, somewhere around 2 tons a week of just wood pellet products, a lot of accessories, cast iron, stuff like that, anything you need outside. They also help with designing of all of your outdoor kitchen needs, that kind of stuff, through Renaissance Cooking Systems, which are great products. The company itself started kind of out of a place that you wouldn't really think of. Jonathan Huddleston and Tracy Hobson were what was known as, I think the team name was Pellet Smokers at the time, or something along those lines. They were chasing the National Points title in the Memphis Barbecue Network. And Jonathan saw that these pellet grills were the future. This has been several years ago, close to 20 years ago now. And Jonathan was the first person to bring that type of technology to Mississippi. Because he saw that vision, he started selling some of these products out of his house or out of his garage. And because they were on this national circuit and they were competing every weekend, other teams would say, hey, Jonathan, whenever you see so-and-so, bring me a case of their rub. Or whenever you see so-and-so, bring me some of their sauce. And Jonathan found himself kind of working to all these products in and out of his house, and all of a sudden, a bell goes off. He was already in business. He was in the audiovisual business at the time, and he just started doing that in a mail order situation out of his house. And then that grew into a business that they first rented a small space right off of Lake Harbor, close to the reservoir. And a couple of years ago, they moved to their newest location, which is out here on Highway 51 right here in Ridgeland.
It looks huge. It looks like you've got everything there. And these Rectecs are so popular. They've become all the rage.
Well, and there's reasons for it. Whenever you go to purchase a pellet grill, there's a couple of things that you really need to be aware of. First thing being, how is that air going to move through that chamber? How are they going to control the fire itself? Because, again, a pellet or a wood pellet is just that. It's 70% something to create BTUs, and then 30% for the flavor. And it's just a compressed wood product. So what type of air, or how is that air going to flow through that particular cooking chamber? How is it going to feed the fire? How is it going to control the fire? What type of controller does it have? And what's it made out of? What's the entire thing made out of? Well, Rectech pretty much clicks all those boxes. 304 stainless steel all the way through. A 4-inch fan, which moves a lot, a 4-inch variable speed fan, which is important, And the PID, or the controller system that they have, is second to none. So we've been very
Lynn,
fortunate.
I got to tell you, there's going to be a lot of guys who are going to bookmark this segment and send a clip of it to their wives and girlfriends and daughters for Father's Day.
Well, come see us and bring her with you. And the reason I say that is a lot of people don't realize that in the pellet world, it really opens up some doors. My wife, for example, would not cook outside at all until I brought home the first pellet grill. And the reason is because she felt very comfortable with it. She didn't have to go out and handle charcoal. She didn't have to go out and light a fire. She didn't have to worry about a propane bottle blowing up. But she would go out and touch that button, and we would immediately start a fire, and then she would be more than comfortable doing it.
30 seconds, Lynn. Tell us the quick tips for seasoning your meat before you start to barbecue and grill this weekend.
Real quickly, number one, dry your meat. Make sure that you get it as dry as you possibly can. Binders are not necessary. That's a great misnomer. If we have more time, we'll talk about that. Season heavily. Let it sit. Let your seasoning set for about 15 minutes until the salts that are in those seasonings start to pull some of the moisture out of the meat and rehydrate those spices that are within your seasonings. And put it on there and have a ball.
Lynn Weaver, Grills of Mississippi, great to see you. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate being here.
SuperTalk Mississippi News and Fox News here at the top of the hour on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Hour of Middays with Gerard Gibert is brought to you by the Mississippi Business Journal. Visit msbusinessjournal.com. Scott Coopwood, publisher and president.
Get ready to go beyond the headlines and join a meaningful conversation with people from around the state. You're listening to Middays with Gerard Gibert here on SuperTalk Mississippi.
In the Element Wealth studio, I'm Scott Sands in for Gerard, who will be back tomorrow. And actually, he'll be at the Mississippi Armed Forces Museum at Camp Shelby tomorrow to get us ready for Memorial Day weekend. You can find me on X at Scott Sands Media, and the C Spire text line open at 601-879-4395. Brett Velikovich is joining me now, former U.S. Army Special Operations Intelligence Analyst, drone expert, member of Delta Force. Brett, it's great to talk to you again. How are you?
Hey, how you doing?
As we get ready for Memorial Day weekend, I just want to point out that you are truly an American hero, and I'm sure you have many comrades you'll be remembering this Memorial Day weekend as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm happy to celebrate this weekend, and it seems like, Memorial Day weekend and 4th of July, just like this tape rolls through my head of like all the friends and colleagues and people we lost, and we'd like to share these stories with friends and family and keep them in our hearts.
President Trump has certainly put a renewed focus on the U.S. military and defending the American people. Let's start with this announcement this week of the Golden Dome. Can you explain that in terms that I could understand what the Golden Dome is and what it's supposed to do, how it's going to work?
Yeah, sure. It sounds epic, doesn't it? The Golden Dome sounds scary, but it is meant to be a bit scary to our adversaries, right? It's really meant to be an advanced missile defense system that's sort of this multi-layer integrated defense shield that leverages ground, sea, air, space-based technologies, satellites, interceptors, and it's meant to protect America against modern day threats. People liken it to sort of the Iron Dome, but it's a lot different than that. It's so much more, because Iron Dome in Israel is really focused on short range missiles, right? Israel's enemies are very, very close. Ours are long, across oceans. And so we're focused with this new project on these intercontinental ballistic missiles, hypersonic missiles, which have just become really, really the next generation threat to us that we're seeing North Korea and China build out. And it's meant to protect against all the new age systems. And frankly, our defenses are outdated. I don't think a lot of Americans realize just how outdated our U.S. missile defenses are. If you were to look at sort of what we have protecting us now, We've got defenses that are designed to counter rogue threats, but they're over 20 years old, and they have little effect these days against the hypersonic weapon systems that are out there that we need to get ahead of. And so I'm glad that President Trump is focused on this project. It's a big endeavor. It's going to require a lot of different companies coming together, integrating new technologies, and I'm glad to see that we're putting some funding to this.
Every time you or another expert who knows how our defense capabilities work says that our defense capabilities are outdated, it scares the heck out of me. And with new technology emerging all the time, you mentioned the hypersonic missiles that are being developed. This is new technology that we really had not anticipated. And the best time to intercept a missile is when it launches. You don't want to give it a lot of flight time. You want to be able to get that threat eliminated as quickly as possible.
Yeah, you're exactly right. I mean, the fact is we face global threats like never before. China, North Korea, Iran, Russia. Our enemies have developed offensive missile systems that can reach out and strike us here at the homeland in ways we'd never envisioned before. And so we have to adapt fast. And this Golden Dome system is going to be the most powerful missile defense system ever built. And really, this is about focusing on countering what China is rapidly doing. And we learned, I think yesterday, China really isn't happy with this Golden Dome system. And of course they aren't, because it's a direct threat to their long-term strategy. And that, frankly, is a great thing to us. We learned that China just in the last month, based on some exercises that occurred in the Pentagon, had the ability with their current hypersonic missile systems to take out all of our U.S. aircraft carriers within just 20 minutes of launch. And that should be scary to people. They're also amassing dozens of missiles in space, basically orbiting missiles in space that they want to equip with nuclear warheads that have the potential of destroying our civilization. And so that's exactly what this new dome is designed to counter. And if done right, it's really going to render a lot of these intercontinental missile threats obsolete. And we've got to do that to just protect ourselves from the 21st century threats that we face.
Just mentioning the technology again, to go back to that for a second, we've heard all of the headlines over the last couple of weeks about problems with air traffic control stations around the country, especially in Newark, and their radar systems going out, their communications going out. That's also technology that's 20 years old, and I'm sure there are components of our commercial air traffic control system that are built into our defense system. And if ATC is failing, that means that our defense systems could also be failing.
Yeah, you're exactly right. I think that, there are a lot of systems, legacy systems in the U.S. that we need to wipe the dust off of and revamp. And a lot of that, I think, if you remember the drone threats that we faced in New Jersey and Langley Air Force Base, where we had these drone incursions, which frankly we still don't have great answers on what happened there. A lot of the reason we don't have answers for what occurred was because we just don't have great detection systems out there, and a lot of that is restricted. Our government, the FAA, the FCC, they're protecting some pretty significant airspace, but at the same time, we have threats that we need to be able to be prepared for, and a lot of that is going to come from the advancements in drone technology. And what's really interesting to me about this new weapon defense system is the space component. We're going to have apparently space-based defense systems. We're talking hundreds potential low Earth orbit satellites all working together for missile detection, missile tracking. Some are going to be even equipped with kinetic missile interceptors and lasers from space. It sounds crazy, but it's the reality that we're dealing with right now to have to neutralize these threats. And so you're going to see a lot of systems that have to talk to each other, and that's going to require a revamping of our domestic infrastructure, or the systems that protect our air bases, the systems that protect our airports. They're all going to have to work together to sort of create this geofence, this virtual shield to protect against these long-range threats.
We're talking to Brett Velikovich, Delta Force operator, author of Drone Warrior, an elite soldier's account of the hunt for America's most dangerous enemies. You talk about drones and the threat that we're learning from China about drones. Just this week, news of a giant Chinese drone mothership And you're right. We don't know what those drones were off the eastern coast, whether they were just commercial DJI drones or if they were a foreign threat. How alarmed should we be about this new, improved, enhanced drone threat from countries like China?
China is expanding its military capabilities at a level we've never seen. If you even listen to Secretary Marco Rubio recently, he came out and frankly said China's expanding their military at a rate no other military in the history of the world has expanded in the cyberspace, in the building ships. And
their Navy outnumbers our Navy.
Right. And a lot of that includes drone technology, right? So they contracted a company, a domestic defense company within China to build 1 million small handheld drones by 2026. 1 million, producing 1 million. We don't have manufacturers that produce 1 million drones in the United States in 1 year. We're not at that level. And when you see what's going on overseas in Russia and Ukraine, they're producing massive amounts of drones at scale. It's almost like ammunition to them. They're producing these as if they're artillery rounds. A lot of people think of drones as like surveillance, but really they're being used as ammunition now on these battlefields. And that's the next war. We're never going to fight another war without drone technology. And knowing what I know currently about the current state of drone tech and how lethal and advanced it's come just in the last few years, I have zero confidence that we have the current capability in America to deter a massive, large-scale drone attack on our homeland. And that is something that keeps me up at night because I just know how lethal this technology is and how it's being used overseas. I mean, we had Chinese spy balloons flying above us going unnoticed for a long time. And it seems like we spend more money seemingly propping up these foreign countries' defenses instead of our own, and that's got to stop. We've got to first and foremost protect our own citizens, protect our own house before we look to protect others. And this is why we're looking internally now at making sure we can defend our country in ways that we just need to protect against future threats.
So drone swarms and hypersonic missiles will be the next thing to keep us up at night. Brett, thank you for your time. BrettVelikovich.com, author of Drone Warrior, an elite soldier's account of how the hunt for America's most dangerous enemies. It's great to catch up with you, my friend.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Middays with Gerard Gibert continues here on SuperTalk Mississippi. I'm Scott Sands.
When you and everyone we knew to believe, sharing what was true. I said, dance all days long.
Middays with Gerard Gibert.
What? This is so
awesome. On SuperTalk Mississippi.
Scott Sands in for Gerard Gibert on SuperTalk Mississippi. Jason in Pearl on the C Spire text line with a note remembering me from radio in Hattiesburg a long time ago, and I had to reply to him, Rhino, and apologize if I were a jerk. I will admit this now. I was kind of a jerk at certain points in my life and in my career, including during my time in Mississippi back then. So I apologize, but it's great to be remembered, and it's a lot of fun to be invited here on Super Talk Mississippi. Last night, in a major victory for congressional Republicans, the House early this morning voted to approve a massive tax and budget bill. It encompasses much of President Trump's legislative agenda. I heard Richard talking about it this morning. Of course, Mike Turner said it's a very big win. Republican lawmakers hailing the move to extend a series of tax cuts, including the very important 2017 Trump Tax Cuts and Jobs Act. House Speaker Mike Johnson saying, I think all of our colleagues will really like this final product, which, as I mentioned yesterday, kind of worries me that they're voting on stuff that they don't really know what's in the bill. The bill itself is 1,000 pages long, and there are parts of this I'm glad got done. But I think Thomas Massey also has a valid point that this could potentially add trillions of dollars to our national debt, which we also voted for Donald Trump and Republicans to cut spending, which really isn't getting done in this bill. For example, just one of many examples is the SALT tax credit, the state and local tax credit, which has been raised from $10,000 to $40,000. And they needed to do this to get some Republican votes from blue states. And I would rather, in Mississippi and other states that have our house in order, not pay for outrageous tax rates in states like New York, Massachusetts, and California. The bill came within one vote of failure, the final vote 214, one lawmaker voting present on that. If Andy Harris, head of the House Freedom Caucus, had voted against the plan instead of voting present, then the measure would have been defeated on a tie vote. He voted present instead, and much of the rest of the Freedom Caucus did eventually fall in line to vote for the bill. This coming after intense lobbying by Republican leaders, President Trump, Speaker Johnson, who, for as many shortcomings as I think Speaker Johnson has, is getting it done. You may not like to see how the sausage is made, but he has been able to slowly convince moderates and conservatives alike to get on board with this and try to get our country back on track. This moment, years in the making, said Adrian Smith of Nebraska. The bill works for America, said Buddy Carter of Georgia. And Jody Arlington said, I don't think it's a scam to prevent a 22% tax hike on average Americans. But, of course, last night and all night, Democrats were sneering at the details and the timing of this, pointing out, I think you may disagree with this, rightfully so, that this was done in the middle of the night without the 72-hour debate, without time to read the extent of the bill, without an extensive floor debate. Brad Sherman of California, a Democrat, said, imagine a bill so ugly that no one will vote for it except in the dead of night. And Jimmy Panetta of California also added this bill is just as bad in the dead of night as it is in the light of day. All 212 Democrats were there to vote for this. I would prefer to see, and I'm glad that much of President Trump's agenda is getting done, but in regards to especially the Trump tax cuts provision of the big, beautiful bill, I would have liked to have seen more single-issue bills on the floor of the House and force those 212 House Democrats essentially to vote for raising taxes. That's what they would have been doing. Put that, if nothing else, put that as a standalone bill and get all 212 Democrats in the House and the Democrats in the Senate on the record voting to raise our taxes, which is what they would have done if they voted against the Trump tax cuts extension. There were some interesting moments in the debate, as I've seen on X this morning, but the outcome never really in doubt as they continued to work through the night. The latest changes, and this is one interesting note, is that there were references to the MAGA account that were changed. I think 70 different times the MAGA healthcare account was changed to reflect the word Trump in the bill instead. So here's some of the inclusions. There are, like I said, 1,000 pages of the bill, so it will take some time to fully digest what the legislative text really means. Some of the highlights: biggest change was speeding up the effective date of new work requirements under Medicaid, taking effect next year in 2026 instead of waiting until 2028. Green energy tax breaks approved by President Biden now have to be in service by 2028 to qualify for those tax credits. I mentioned the SALT tax extension, taking the limit from $10K to $40K a year. But at the same time, the Republican plan now includes a new limit on itemized deductions for those in the top 37% tax bracket. Stripped out of the bill was a Republican provision which put thousands of acres of federal land up for sale in Nevada and Utah. And the final deal removed one retirement benefits change for federal workers, which would have calculated pensions for the highest 5 years of salary as opposed to the current highest 3 years. Thomas Massey, again, one of the biggest opponents of this bill, given time by Democrats during the debate, Thomas Massie accused the Republicans of using funny math and putting together a package which will increase the federal deficit. If something is beautiful, you don't do it after midnight, he said. Other conservatives readily admitted that the package will increase the federal deficit in the short term. Warren Davidson, one of the other dissenters, one of the other Republicans to vote against the plan, said deficits do matter. I reached out earlier today to Congressman Davidson, know him from Ohio. Was unable to get him. Congressman Guest had to cancel his segment with us today here on Super Talk Mississippi. Reached out to a few other members and did not hear back, Rhino, from anyone until I heard back from Ohio Congressman Bob Latta. Told me he's getting on a flight. So I figured it out. They worked all night. They voted through the night. And now they're getting the heck out of town. They're all on planes heading back to their home districts for Memorial Day weekend. So that's why I don't know. I'm not pointing the finger at Congressman Guest as to why he had to cancel his change in itinerary, change in schedule. I'm sure it's a valid reason. But every other congressman that I know that I reached out to say, hey, you want to talk about the big, beautiful bill? All said, no, we're flying out as soon as we can. So now that the bill has passed the House, the next stop will be the Senate, which will take up its own version of the reconciliation package likely in June. It will also get a full review, and this is part of how that sausage is made. The Senate parliamentarian will review the bill and actually has the authority to recommend policy provisions getting chopped out of the bill, and they're hoping to get this on the president's desk by July 4th. Now, as a nerd, the rules are, and how the Senate parliamentarian can put his mark on this, it's a technical rules fight over policy matters and what is considered and what is not regular order in Senate business. At issue are 3 waivers to the Clean Air Act, which allow California to enforce stricter vehicle emission standards. Republican senators working with the Trump administration came up with a parliamentary plan which they argue allows Congress to force votes on those California plans and stop them. One of the waivers, which has drawn the most attention, basically allows California to ban the sale of gas-powered vehicles by 2035. Under the Congressional Review Act, Congress can block executive branch rules and regulations, but these particular ones, the California Clean Air Act waivers, are not a federal rule and have never been subjected to repeal votes under the Congressional Review Act. Republicans want to change that. It's very similar to a nuclear option in the Senate, and Democrats are obviously going to be upset about that, but the Senate voted 51 to 46 last night to reject those objections. With this move, Republican senators overrule the parliamentarian, sort of yes, sort of no. Instead of voting to overturn the decision of the parliamentarian, the majority leader, John Thune, set up votes to have the Senate decide the procedural question directly. And the question is, shall joint resolutions that meet all the requirements of Section 802 of that Congressional Review Act or are approving of agency actions which have been determined to be a rule subject to the Congressional Review Act by a legal decision, be entitled to expedited procedures under the Congressional Review Act? This move could certainly open the door to challenges against all sorts of other federal program waivers without having to worry about the Senate filibuster. Not quite a nuclear option, but it's certainly a substantial change to the precedent of the Senate, and now that becomes the new regular order, which could have a ripple effect as the makeup politically of Congress changes years down the road. It's something worth watching and pointing out during this whole mess of the big, beautiful bill passing. Your thoughts on that on the C Spire text line at 601-879-4395. Talk a little sports next with Michael Borky here on Super Talk Mississippi. I'm Scott Sands, in for Gerard Gibert, middays on Super Talk.
So on the SuperTalk app.
Man, it's time for
Middays with Gerard Gibert on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Jerry in Waynesboro on the C Spire text line. I'm not hearing anything about taxes on Social Security in the big, beautiful bill. Well, there are provisions in the bill. It changes how Social Security benefits are taxed, reduces or enhances deductions for older adults of certain income levels, but I don't believe it's a complete elimination of tax on Social Security. I'll get clarification on that as I go through this bill. I'm Scott Sands. In for Gerard Gibert, middays on SuperTalk Mississippi, and the C Spire text line is open. Michael Borky from Sports Talk Mississippi is joining us. Michael, it's great to see you. It was a late night last night for Ole Miss fans.
Yeah, not as late as I was expecting, though, when you had the delay where Mississippi State and A&M had to move to the morning, and then you had Tennessee and Alabama play a really long game, and Game 3 started an hour and 15 minutes late. I did not think I was going to be able to make it all the way through last night's Ole Miss game, but they finished quick. Two pitchers that had a really good night kind of helped speed up a baseball game, and you got just that. So, I mean, you've had 2 3 a.m. Nights in Hoover, so luckily that wasn't one of those.
I kept flipping over to the SEC network to watch the game, and it hadn't started yet. And Michael, I'm an Alabama fan, so my team lost earlier in the day. State lost earlier in the day. I will cheer for the Rebels if I can watch. The game never started, so I got sucked into the Dallas-Edmonton NHL game, the Stanley Cup game, which got really exciting there in the third period. I don't know if you watched any of that.
Yeah, playoff hockey's amazing, and we talk about it on the show some. I want desperately to be a hockey fan and to have a team. It's just so hard to. You got to buy another subscription service or whatever to watch every game
right.
they play. So I haven't adopted a team yet, but the playoffs I am in, and it's the speed in which those games are played. I tell people this all the time. It's the only sport where 95% of the game, the puck is on goal, essentially. You know, in football, it takes you a long time to drive down the field. There's explosive plays, sure. In basketball, it's kind of similar, but it takes them longer to move the ball from one end of the floor to the other. Hockey, you are on one end, like you're defending and you're attacking in seconds. And so if the game matters, you can't relax as a fan because it is just constant intensity for the entire duration of the game. I love hockey. And but I was captivated by baseball last night too, of course. But man, hockey grabs me this time of year.
Dallas, I think, scored 4 goals in 5 or 6 minutes to tie the game. They were down 4-0, I believe.
It's because Scotty Scheffler was there. I mean, that's what it was. They had a winner in the stands, and
I still don't fully understand hockey, but I started to enjoy the sport when Wolves came to Biloxi. That's kind of when I became a little bit of a hockey fan. And you know what I like is, as a radio guy, I've been doing this, 30 years. What I enjoy listening are the radio commentators for both hockey and baseball, because obviously it takes a different skill set in every sport. But the hockey guys, I mean, the puck is always moving. There's always a fight or a pass or somebody that you can talk about. Baseball guys are telling stories about the place they ate pizza for, and will stop their story mid-sentence, tell you about a swing and a miss, and then come right back to where they left off their story about the pizza place.
Yeah, it's an art form, and 2 totally different art forms. It's amazing. I don't know how the hockey guys keep up with the line changes and knowing who's got it, and because, as you know, of course, they change through the course of plays, and so how they know this guy's on the ice and this guy's not is wild to me. And then just the speed in which everything happens to be able to keep up with it, and not only keep up with it, but keep the audience up to date with it. It's impressive. And as you said, that guys like Vin Scully, just the weaving in and out of telling you what's happening in the game and then telling you an anecdotal story it's an art form. And the technology age is taking us further and further away from radio, I suppose, when it comes to games. But, man, you cannot replace a good radio baseball analyst. You can't do it.
Oh, absolutely. It's certainly an art form. And I couldn't do hockey because I couldn't pronounce most of the players' names. That would be my biggest challenge. Michael Borky here with me on Scott Sands.
On the end of it.
Right. All right. So let's look at the college baseball playoffs. State lost, Bama lost, Florida lost. Are they out?
So they're not out. This is the SEC tournament. So this is just this determines the winner of the Southeastern Conference. So Mississippi State, they're out of the tournament, but they're not out of postseason baseball. They will get selected next week into the NCAA tournament. Alabama, the only thing that's up in question for them and Florida both is whether or not the loss knocked them out of hosting a regional next week. And that was the thing last night with Ole Miss. I don't think it guaranteed them a host spot in Oxford next weekend, but winning that game last night made their chances of doing that a lot greater. It's not a one-for-one thing. There are a lot of people saying that, well, if they win, they're hosting. I don't know if it's that simple, especially if they lose, turn around and lose tomorrow. But their resume is already really strong. It was strong going into this week. Getting that win over Florida has really enhanced that. And my gosh, if they win tomorrow, then you can guarantee postseason baseball in Oxford. So a very significant win last night for Ole Miss, especially with how hot Florida was coming into this tournament as well. To shut them down the way they did and to get this late night win has implications for hosting a regional. And almost 70% of regional hosts win that regional. So it's a big deal to be able to host, and they may have pulled that off last night.
Tomorrow they'll play Arkansas at 3:00, and that's going to be a big game for that very reason. But how about the Golden Eagles? How about Southern Miss?
Southern Miss got a big win yesterday. I say big win. The spread was big. That was an expected win, though. I mean, Southern Miss is on a collision course with Coastal Carolina in the championship of the Sun Belt. And so yesterday's result, not surprising at all. And if they're going to host in Hattiesburg, and depending on the projection model you look at, some think that they're already in that position. Others think they're very much on the edge. But Coastal Carolina out of the Sun Belt already basically a guaranteed host at this point. And sometimes a conference like theirs doesn't get multiple. And so Southern Miss, if they keep winning, I mean, they have the nation's longest winning streak right now. They're playing exceptionally good baseball. And if they're able to win this conference tournament, which would include beating Coastal Carolina to get that win, they're hosting in Hattiesburg. And oh, by the way, Jeremy McClain, their athletic director, sits on the committee. I know they recuse themselves during those conversations, but it's absolutely helpful. You saw it in the basketball tournament. North Carolina's athletic director was the committee chair. North Carolina should not have gotten in, but somehow, some way they got in.
It's weird how that
Jeremy
works.
McClain being on this committee, I know, right? It's amazing. But Jeremy McClain being on this committee is big for Southern Miss because his presence in the room should curry them favor. So if they're a fringe host team, they very well could get that extra nod because of who's in the room, which is a great thing, of course. And that fan base will turn out and support a regional as they've done it many times in the past. But they're right there. If they keep winning and win this tournament, I see no way that they're not going to host.
So it's great to see all these teams in Mississippi doing well in college baseball. How important, and I know you've been talking about the future of coaching at Mississippi State, how important or is it for State to do well in the tournament to be able to attract the coach that they want to the team? Does that play into the factor at all?
Honestly, not at all. Because whoever takes the job, I would bet right now on Brian O'Connor from Virginia. Already is well aware of the support, the capability of acquiring talent, and Mississippi State, Ole Miss as well. One of the very few programs in the country that would really pay for baseball players. And now the rest of them exist in the SEC. The league is extremely difficult, but even if they don't go far, if they go 2-Q in a regional, that's not going to make or break a coach taking this job. Everybody is well aware of what they already put into baseball, and if you believe the reporting and the rumors, they're going to increase that investment even more for the new coach. So it's a highly coveted job. They support it like very few programs in the country do, and honestly, right now they're just waiting on one of their two candidates, whichever one Zach Selman thinks is his favorite, to be done playing. No coach is going to take a job in baseball before their team gets eliminated. So whenever Virginia's done or whenever Oregon's done, that's when this thing is going to reach a very quick conclusion. So that's been the hardest part for State fans is the waiting game, just because they fired Chris Lemonis weeks ago, and you're not going to hire a sitting head coach while he's still coaching games. And so you just have to wait until his team gets eliminated. But that will come soon, and I expect it to be either one of those guys at this point, and both of them would be, to use a cheesy pun, home run hires. It really would. So they're in great position regardless of what happens on the field over the next week or so.
Real quick, who are the teams that you think we should be watching as the playoffs advance?
So, of course, here locally in Mississippi is the thing. And, right now, I think you've got a couple of teams that are actually poised, a group of teams, all three of them, that really can make some noise. You have to love, even though State lost in the SEC tournament, the way they closed the season, that they're red hot right now. Ole Miss beats Auburn in that series top 10 team. They turn around and beat Florida. And Southern Miss, literally the hottest team in college baseball. You don't have to look anywhere else. You get all of your contenders and interesting stories right here in Mississippi, which is really cool. You don't always get that, but you do this year.
No. I don't want to put you on the spot. Can you stick around for another segment, talk about some other sports stories? You can say no. People tell me no all the time. People have been telling me no all day. Michael Borky here on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Polyup, Mississippi.
Come on.
Middays with Gerard Gibert.
All right, we are back
on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Middays with Gerard Gibert. He's going to be at the Mississippi Armed Forces Museum at Camp Shelby tomorrow to get us ready for Memorial Day weekend. I'm Scott Sands, sitting in for Gerard. You can find me on X at Scott Sands Media. Michael Borky from Sports Talk Mississippi also joining us, and I just followed you on X as well. Appreciate you sticking around. Some football stories I wanted to get your thoughts on. Some sad news from Indianapolis yesterday. Colts owner Jim Irsay passed away at age 65. I lived in Indianapolis for about 10 years and had numerous occasions to meet Jim Irsay. He kind of had, I think, nationally a sordid reputation and a sordid perception. Am I wrong about that? I know you're a Saints fan.
Yeah. Certainly an interesting character for sure. But through all of what were clearly some personal struggles, it felt like he was one of the few owners that understood who supported his product. You have so many people that own these franchises that they're billionaires and they sit up in their suites and they don't understand the fans and they don't understand the people that make pro sports what they are. And it did feel like Irsay, among all of them, was willing more so than the rest of them to, engage with the people that made everything go. And I always kind of appreciated that about him. I mean, every interview I heard, he would talk about his fans first, and you just don't get enough of that. But certainly an interesting character. And, it's, of course, sad to see his passing. But I do wish that more owners would do that.
He made some questionable management decisions, but what I really appreciated about him was he literally, through his career, worked every job in the organization. He did the team's laundry as a kid before he became GM at 25 years old, and he was very generous to the charities of Indianapolis and loved the city. And during the several conversations that I had with him, I mean, he embraced Twitter early on and conducted fan experience contests on Twitter and would walk around literally with a wad of cash. I've seen him give money in downtown Indianapolis to homeless people, like thousands of dollars. And some of my friends who work for the Colts said that every year they would get a birthday card from him with a $100 bill on it.
That's all. Yeah. Really cool
very
stuff
generous
there.
man.
And the more that we go in the direction that we're going in all sports, the worse it gets for the common people. And he's one of the few that at least acknowledge them,
So the tush push lives on. The NFL voted yesterday to let the Eagles and whoever else wants to try it continue the tush push. It's a boring play, but it's been very effective for them. And if you don't like it, figure out a way to defend against it.
Or do it yourself. I'm actually going to bring you a stat on that as well. So the Eagles have been famous for, of course, the tush push, or I like the brotherly shove better myself.
Right.
But it's not like it's a cheat code. The Eagles were 10th in conversion percentage in the NFL. So in the top third, that's all they were on 3rd and 1 and 2, and they were 6th in conversion percentage on 4th and 1 and 2. So they were clearly good at it, but they're not even the best at it. So this idea that we need to get rid of what they're doing, well, why don't we try to get rid of what everybody else is doing in front of them? There are 9 teams better than them on 3rd and short. So if you're telling me that this is some grand cheat code that we have to get out of the game, give me a break. Football at its core is supposed to be, I'm more physical than you, and I'm going to show you that I am. And so the Eagles are, okay, we're going to line up, and we're just going to push. We're just going to push. That's what we're going to do. And the fact that we want to take that out of the game bothered me. The vote, unfortunately, is getting closer and closer and closer to passing. But so far, you can still just line up and have a rugby scrum, because that is what football is supposed to be. It's
supposed to be tough and physical, and if you don't like it, figure out a way to stop them. Put a bigger D-line in there to prevent it from happening. It's Memorial Day weekend, going back, I guess, to Indianapolis for a second. Indy 500 on Memorial Day, a grand tradition. If you've never been to the race, it is truly the greatest spectacle in racing. I'm not a race fan, but you got literally 500,000 people in a 2.5 square mile area watching cars go around the track. And this year, a little bit of a controversy around the Penske team, but it's shaping up to be another amazing race. Pato O'Ward is the favorite right now. Do you care about this sport at all? I find it difficult to watch at times, but it's certainly enjoyable to go to a race.
Oh, and that's one of the things that I tell people is, if you can't watch racing on TV, don't let that stop you from going, because the in-person experience is so much better than watching from your couch. I saw a stat yesterday. You're an Indy guy, so you'd be able to tell me if I'm wrong. 1 in every 1,000 Americans attends that race. So one out of 1,000 people
I've seen that stat.
are there that day. 1 out of 1,000 people.
I've seen that stat as well. Can we agree that Danica Patrick shouldn't be on the broadcast, though?
Oh, gosh. That's maybe a conversation for more than just 30 seconds here. Hear the music.
You're probably right about that. Hey, Michael Borky, it's been great to talk with you. Thank you for your time.
Of course, anytime.
Middays with Gerard Gibert continues. I'm Scott Sands on SuperTalk Mississippi. We've got Fox News coming up at the top of the hour.
And now, another hour of the talk that keeps Mississippi talking. Middays with Gerard Gibert.
Begin your transition now.
Now on SuperTalk Mississippi.
How y'all doing? I'm Scott Sands in for Gerard Gibert on SuperTalk Mississippi. C-Spire text line 601-879-4395. Kelly Jo Thompson is joining me now. She is from Hattiesburg and author of a new book called Suck It Up, Buttercup. I love that saying. I don't use that nearly enough in my daily life. Kelly, it's great to have you on.
Thanks for having me.
So tell us about the book and tell us about yourself. I have not read this yet, to be honest, but it sounds like it's going to be relatable to so many people and truly inspirational about your life.
I think it will be. It just started as a process or how to process what I was going through. But it talks about, it's kind of a memoir, a cautionary tale, if you will. It talks about teen motherhood, single parenthood, grief, poverty, heartbreak, and divorce. Just keep going, when you don't feel like you have anything to still give. Basically is what the book is about.
It sounds uplifting, but there's a positive message in there too. How big's your family? You've got 5 daughters? I
have 5 daughters, yes, and 5 grandchildren.
So tell us about how you were able to raise them as a single mom for so long, and what you went through in that part of your life.
Well, I can't tell you how many times I've had people ask me that. How do you do it? And my answer is, if you find somebody else to do it for me, let me know. I really have no choice. It was fun. It was fun, 5 girls in the house. I had my oldest daughter, like I said, when I was 16. She's 30 years old now. And then I have 2 other daughters that are 23 and 21. They just became mothers themselves. And then I still have 2 at home that are 13 and 11. So, but I just worked.
You raised them alone. Where were their fathers?
Well, one of their fathers is, he's not in the picture. And the other one, he had a severe stroke in 2019. So he's unable to do a lot.
And that's, I'm sure that presented all sorts of challenges in raising them emotionally and financially.
Yes, it did.
So
but
how do you address those? Go ahead.
I'm sorry. Sometimes I worked 4 jobs at a time, and then I just happened to fall into the insurance industry, and that's when I quit all the other jobs, and I've just been doing insurance ever since.
Do you think that that's setting a good role model for your daughters, that kind of work ethic and determination?
I do. I think they see that I show up. I work all the time, but I still show up. I don't give up, and I think they've gotten my work ethic. I believe they do.
How difficult is it to write such a deeply personal story and then share it with the world?
So if you saw my box of journals, you would laugh, but I write all the time. I just write all the time. And about 5 years ago, during COVID, I started an online blog. So a part of the book is a collection of that blog. I kind of started out with growing up and what I had been through up until that point. And then, my blog entries are in there. Well, shortly after that, my best friend was diagnosed with cancer. And from the time she was diagnosed till she passed away 15 months later, I took care of her. I promised her I'd be there every step of the way. And so I went to every doctor's appointment. I went to, everything. I was there with her. And so a lot of it was part of that journey as well. And then just dealing with grief and all. So, but whenever I was going through that, I tried to find some books to help me navigate it. And I really couldn't find anything out there. And so that's when I had decided, and I had talked to Tony about it and, before she passed away. And I told her, I said, I think I'm going to write a book. And so that's why I ended up doing it.
What do you hope the readers of your book, Suck It Up, Buttercup, will learn? What do you hope they walk away with? Is there a lesson? Is it just that you can overcome challenges? Is the positive message of how to approach your life and challenges?
It doesn't matter where you are in life or how old you are. I've had to start over a couple of times in my life. But that's what I hope people will gain from it is, you can, heartache and grief, it can exist in the same space as healing. You can still get up and keep going. You can start over. You can pivot in your life. You have that choice, and it's all about mindset. And that's what I hope people take from it. I hope it is an inspiration for others that are going through hard times and thinking, I just can't do it. I can't go anymore. That it can be done.
How do you start over in situations like that? I mean, I'm personally on the job hunt myself and going through, the typical midlife crisis and questioning my future career path. But you gotta suck it up, Buttercup, as you say. It's the title of your book, and figure out what you're going to do and move forward. So how do you go about that process? Is there a method that you found helpful during your journey?
Yes. I focus on that day, whatever I can get accomplished that day, because being overwhelmed by the big picture never gets you anywhere. So I just decide what I can get accomplished that day, and then the next day I move on to the next thing. I journal a lot. I have to-do lists, but I just never give up. Even on the days that I'm tired and I don't want to, I still just keep going. And
so sometimes that's an accomplishment, just getting out of bed. So sometimes it's a struggle and it's a win if you can just get out of bed and get your day going. How important have you found, because you've obviously had some challenges in your relationships, if I can put it so bluntly. How do you address that in your personal life? And talk about the importance of knowing your own self-worth and being able to set boundaries in the next relationship.
Well, that's been a process that took me years and years and years to figure out, because forever, I think somewhere along the lines, I lost myself. I was doing for kids and doing for husbands, and I wasn't doing that. I wasn't setting boundaries, and that is important. That is important, knowing your self-worth, and it took me a long time to know that myself. But that's throughout the book, that is what I share, because I want people to realize what their worth is. And it's important to show up, not for everybody else, but for yourself.
How open were you about your life? Obviously, you've been journaling a long time. Did your friends know what you were going through at the time? And was it a difficult choice to make this so public, if not?
I didn't put a lot of details, people's names or anything like that. But I was very vulnerable in the book. I was very open and honest. It was very raw.
Where's your book available?
It's on Amazon in paperback and hardcover. It's also in Kindle version, and I'm working on narrating an audiobook for Audible.
It's been not too long, just a couple of weeks, I believe, right? Have you gotten any response to it so far? What kind of reaction are you getting to such a personal story?
Well, I've had numerous people message me on Facebook or text me and call me and tell me that they couldn't put the book down and they cried.
Yeah, it sounds like there may be some emotional moments during the read.
Yeah, I did have one girl call me yesterday and say she was adopted, and she was adopted into 3 different homes throughout her life, and just seeing what a mother is like to her children, it really hit home with her. Because I do talk to my children a lot in that book. Whenever my girls are 12 years old, I buy a blank journal, and I start writing in it. And I write in it just life lessons and advice for me until they're 17. And then at 17, I give them the book. And it's something that's become a tradition, with me and my girls. And my younger 2 were already saying, "Have you started my book yet?" They get really excited. So
I think so many people will find your story relatable and inspirational. It's available on Amazon and Kindle. Suck it up, Buttercup. Kelly Jo Thompson here on Middays with Gerard Gibert. I'm Scott Sands. Kelly Jo, congratulations. Great to talk with you.
Thank you. Thank you. You too.
Always great to support Mississippi authors, too. Kelly Jo Thompson from Hattiesburg. You can find her on social media as well. They're getting rid of the penny finally. I'll tell you the latest developments on that story next year on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Covering the stories that matter most to Mississippians. Gerard Gibert. Middays with Gerard. SuperTalk Mississippi.
Should the penny go away? I'll tell you that in just a second. I'm Scott Sands in for Gerard Gibert on SuperTalk Mississippi. Earlier today, the Supreme Court ruled in a 4-4 decision affirming the Oklahoma Supreme Court's ruling of St. Isidore of Seville versus Drummond. Justice Amy Coney Barrett recused herself from the case. Predictions had pretty much anticipated a split decision, allowing the court to avoid elaborating on the case and focus on other issues. The split does appear to suggest that Justice Brett Kavanaugh aligned with the conservative justices, and John Roberts, shockingly, voted alongside the progressives. The uncertainty surrounding Barrett's recusal raises questions regarding her ties to Notre Dame and its religious liberty clinic, as well as her relationship with some of the people involved in this case, which might have broader ramifications, including potentially influencing the discussions related to Justice Thomas and allegations against him. Noticeably, no indications of other states pursuing similar educational initiatives, leaving the nuanced issue regarding the case unresolved for the foreseeable future. It seems the Supreme Court is treating Oklahoma's children maybe as an afterthought, but at least they're avoiding any definitive opinion on that, and I'm sure it's a case the Supreme Court will have to deal with again very soon. Rhino, what are your thoughts on the penny? Do you carry change around with you?
Not unless I absolutely have to. I'm not against cash. I just try to keep as little change as possible in the pocket.
I already have too much stuff in my pockets now. I don't need change rattling around. And when it gets to be too much change in the cup holder, I'll put it in a mason jar, and eventually I'll take it to the grocery store and get some cash for it. That's about the extent of my interaction with change. I like to use my iPhone for cashless pay as an option whenever I can and not carry a lot of cash. But now it seems like Treasury is going to phase out production of the penny and stop putting new 1-cent coins into circulation. This announcement officially coming today. It's something that's been speculated for a while. A Treasury spokesperson said the government made its final order of penny blanks this month, and the U.S. Mint will continue to manufacture pennies only as long as an inventory of penny blanks exist. If you have a penny, you can still use them, but without new pennies going into circulation, businesses that complete cash transactions will have to start rounding up or down to the nearest nickel. What do you think is going to happen there? They're going to likely round it up, if I had to guess, right? That they're not going to give you a discount if you're paying for cash. They're going to round it up.
I don't know. I mean, in the instances where I've had rounding when it comes to cash is usually at a convenience store. And the one that I frequent that's closest to my apartment, if I'm transacting in cash, if it's rounding down, they round down. If it rounds up, it rounds up. They're already doing this.
Really? So
yeah.
I find that I usually get the exact change back. And if I've got a bunch of pennies, I'll put them in the take a penny, leave a penny jug. Or, if there's a donation jar on the counter, I might put it in the donation jar. I don't like the change. Call me a change snob, I guess. I don't. And then as Rich in Biloxi said, add on sales tax for another variable on that. That's true. Well, if they round it up, and I realize it's probably a fraction of a cent, but if they're going to round up your total, I guess they round up the total after the tax has been added.
Oh, yeah.
The U.S. Has been minting pennies, which literally cost us more than 2 cents. This is so wasteful. This is President Trump on Truth Social. I have instructed my Secretary of the Treasury to stop producing new pennies. Let's rip the waste out of our great nation's budget, even if it's a penny at a time. So he actually undersold the cost argument. Pennies cost more than 3 cents each to produce. I didn't realize that. But the cost might be a smaller problem than the alternative. The mint actually loses even more money on every nickel it produces. Guess how much a nickel costs to produce?
Oh, I don't know, 13 cents?
Yeah, 13.8 cents. 11 cents in production, 2.8 cents of administrative and distribution costs. So we've been talking about getting rid of the penny for years. I remember a West Wing episode about this, 10, 20 years ago. The Mint tried to cut losses by making fewer nickels, down 86% from 1.4 billion nickels it minted in each of the previous 2 years to 202 million. There's also far fewer than the 3.2 billion pennies it made in 24. It only made, it made 3.2 billion last year, 4.1 billion in 23, and 5.4 billion in 2022. So they've been phasing it out, but no plan to address nickel production. The estimated savings for taxpayer, $56 million to halt the production of a penny. Now, even if the mint has to make only 850,000 additional nickels in the next year to meet demand, that would wipe out any savings from eliminating the penny. So we're still at a break-even point just to produce the currency that we use. If the mint goes back to making 1.5 million nickels a year, that actually costs us as taxpayers an additional $78 million more than we're saving by getting rid of the penny. And if you're rounding up and down to the nearest nickel, you're probably going to need to have more nickels in circulation than you currently have. How many nickels would you guess are in circulation right now?
63 million.
I don't think it's that high, but I actually don't have the number. I wanted to see what your guess was since you got the last one right. We would probably, if we have to stop making pennies, if we are stopping to make pennies, another 2 to 2.5 million nickels per year based on the track record in other countries that drop their lowest valued currency. So there's actually research and information available about other nations that have dropped their pennies or the equivalent of the pennies, and you find out that the lowest denomination coin is actually the most minted coin, the coin in the most circulation and the most used coin. And I wonder, I forget what the proper fancy term is for a coin collector, but I wonder if these last minted pennies will eventually become more valuable. Loretta in West Point says perhaps Doge needs to look at the coin administration and production. They can look at it all they want, Loretta, but Doge has proven to be a failure, in my opinion, because Republicans refuse to take any action on the recommendations of Doge. And we've seen Elon Musk say that, well, he's stepping back 2 or 3 days a week that'll work on Doge to maybe every other week to now not really seeming to have any interest in dealing with the government at all because of some of the fights that he's picked with Trump cabinet secretaries. Doge, unfortunately, and I think many of us who voted for Donald Trump voted for Doge and to vote to cut spending. As we were talking about the big, beautiful bill earlier, none of that seems to be getting done. And I think it's because so many times Republicans are for fiscal responsibility when they're not in power. But as soon as they get in power, suddenly fiscal responsibility goes right out the window. I mean, it's very, very weird. Nearly 40 million Americans expected to hit the roads this Memorial Day weekend. And the good news is the national average price of a gallon of gas is expected to be $3.08 on Memorial Day. GasBuddy.com released their new predictions yesterday. It's going to be the lowest gas price at the unofficial start of summer since 2021 and well below Gas Buddy's average of $3.58 last Memorial Day. It also is sharply lower than 2 years ago or 3 years ago, 2022, when the gas prices on Memorial Day were above $4.60 a gallon. Mississippi has some of the lowest gas prices in the country. And I saw some friends of mine on social media who were complaining that, you know, as Donald Trump is talking about gas at $1.99 a gallon, which it's slightly above that. When I looked this morning on Gas Buddy, it's anywhere from $2.10, $2.15 to $2.30, $2.40 at the lowest levels. It may not be precisely $1.99, but if you're in California and you're complaining about $5 a gallon gas, that's your problem. You could look at the GasBuddy.com gas price map and see that all of the states that are paying more than $3.50 a gallon are Democrat-controlled states, mainly on the West Coast. California and Oregon and Washington are states paying some of the highest prices for gas, and it's because of state government, not because of what Donald Trump is doing, and it's all having an effect on the economy as well. Band Otis is coming in concert We'll talk to the lead singer of Otis next here on SuperTalk Mississippi. I'm Scott Sands in for Gerard Gibert.
Middays with Gerard Gibert.
It is on
SuperTalk Mississippi.
The band Otis is playing at Ground Zero Blues Club in Clarksdale in June 19th. Boone Froggatt joining me in just a second. I'm Scott Sands in for Gerard Gibert. Rhino, you looked it up. We were talking about the penny. The U.S. Mint is going to stop circulation and minting of the penny as soon as they're out of the blank pennies. How many nickels are in circulation? You looked it up.
Yeah, according to Answers.com, there are over 3.8 billion nickels in circulation.
That's a lot of nickels. Someone suggested on the C Spire text line, just change the value of the penny. If it's cheaper to produce the penny by like 10 cents each, just change the value of the penny to a nickel and stop making the nickel. That actually makes a lot of sense. You'll never have a place in government. That's almost too logical. But a great idea, actually. Boone Froggatt of Otis is joining me now on Middays with Gerard Gibert. I'm Scott Sands. Boone, it's nice to meet you.
Oh, thanks for having me, man. Glad to be here.
Tell us about Otis. Tell us about the band.
Man, we're from Kentucky. We're kind of a blues-based southern rock band, so we're really excited about coming to Ground Zero. It's one of the places we've always wanted to play. You know, being a blues rock band, we go all over. We've been to Europe, all over the world, and people understand the rock side of it everywhere we go, but they don't always understand the blues element of what we do. So it's going to be nice to get down to business and get to the root of where all this great blues music comes from and continue that culture forward.
And Mississippi is just such a rich heritage in blues and rock and roll, all kind of stemming out of the state of Mississippi. I've seen the comparisons to Otis to like Lead Belly and Allman Brothers.
Oh yeah, very very influenced by the Allman Brothers, and we've got to be around several of the guys that were in the band. We've been around Warren Haynes, Books Trucks, J-Mo. We've played the Big House Museum. We've played the Georgia Allman Brothers Band Association Festival 3 times. So we're very into that to that side of Southern rock, the Allman Brothers. Yeah.
Coming from Kentucky, is there a blues culture in Kentucky?
There is. In Louisville, Kentucky is where Sylvester Weaver recorded the first ever slide guitar recorded, and he recorded it with a pocket knife. And also there was John Brim, who was from Kentucky. We did a tribute album to John Brim with his lyrics and our music. And John Brim grew up in the Hawkinsville, Kentucky area, moved to Chicago in his teens, and ended up on Chess Records in the same era as Little Walter and Howlin' Wolf. And his most recognized song is obviously Ice Cream Man. Reason for that, Van Halen put it on their first record, and from the royalties from that, he was able to open his own record store and get back to touring, later in his career, which was really cool. But a lot of folks don't really know that we have that blues heritage. But if you listen to Robert Johnson, and then you flip over and you listen to bluegrass, you listen to Ralph Stanley, Bill Monroe. There's a lot of similarities there. It's not all that different. So Kentucky is more known for bluegrass than blues, but bluegrass has a lot of blues already in it.
Yeah, you jumped my gun. I was going to ask you about bluegrass and what kind of influence that may have played in Otis and in your music.
Oh, a huge influence. My grandfather was an old-time fiddler, so I grew up as a kid with him going to all the fiddling contests. And in Barron County here where we're from is actually where Newgrass Revival started. And we just played a show with Sam Bush last year, which was really fun to get to be around Sam, world recognized, mandolin player and the father of Newgrass music.
So I know your grandfather was a fiddler, and I believe your dad, I've seen him described as playing honky-tonk guitar. So I'm sure you were able to get some musical lessons from them.
Oh, absolutely, man. There's always music in the house. I never had a formal guitar lesson, but I would say, hey, Dad, can you show me this lick? And he'd show me the lick once, and then go back to watching Gunsmoke and leave me to figure it out.
So I've seen the band. I've seen Otis described as a family type band, which I think so many bands become family. Living in a van, living in a bus every day on the road, you get really close. So what do guys argue about when you're not making music?
Oh, just anything we can think of. Our drummer Dale, he likes to argue for fun, so he always keeps an argument going. Whether it's in our group text or whether it's in person, he's always stirring it up. And I think most drummers are that way. I think they're the person that whether it's conversation wise or music wise, they always kind of stir the ashes on things.
So as you're on the road, how many days a year are you guys playing?
Right now, we're probably doing anywhere from 40 to 60 shows a year. So that's quite a few days on the road. We're still in a Sprinter van. We haven't quite hit bus level yet. So we get a few more travel days in than your average bus band does. So we spend a lot of time together, but it's what we love to do. And anytime we get on stage and play some blues and rock and roll for people, it's a good day for us.
I have so many friends in bands who tell me that the bus is their biggest expense. It becomes a money suck, a money hole for their tour.
Oh, absolutely, man. When I'm not touring with Otis, I tour as a crew member with the Kentucky Headhunters, and that is the number one biggest expense in touring is the bus. And with Otis, we're just kind of thinking, hey, if we could just get a nicer Sprinter van in the future, we'll just avoid this whole bus lease thing. It's just so expensive. By the time you pay your lease for the month and you pay your drivers and your fuel, it's just like, man, you're basically just touring to pay for your bus.
We're talking to Boone Froggatt. He's the lead singer of Otis. They're at Ground Zero Blues Club in Clarksdale on June 19th. What do you do on your downtime when you're on the road? I think I've seen that you like going to thrift shops, looking for music and finding some movies on videotape.
Hey, that's me, man. That's what I look for: blues records, horror films on VHS. I love vintage print stuff. So yeah, we're always hitting the Goodwills and the thrift stores when we can. And
so, what's been your greatest find? What's been a gem?
I found some original Elvira on VHS. From the original Full Moon Fever, the company that put it out, which was really cool. And I found a Muddy Waters 78 from Chess, which was really cool. So that's some of my better finds.
What do you like to eat on the road? And have you found any great hole in the wall truck stops along the way?
Oh yeah, we're always keeping an eye out for the mom and pop places, the hole in the wall places. That's where the real people are at, and that's where we like to go. And we're, of course, being from Kentucky, we're barbecue freaks, so we got to eat barbecue everywhere we go. We have barbecue here in Kentucky is a little different. We got a piece of meat called shoulder, which you can't really find anywhere else except maybe northern Tennessee, southern Kentucky. So we like telling folks about that.
Is that a meat you smoke slow and slow, I would guess?
Yeah, it's pork, low and slow, vinegar-based mop sauce. That's over real wood coals. That's what we're about.
The band Otis is getting a lot of recognition, even if you're not familiar with them. People inside the industry certainly are. I know that Otis got a big shout out from Billy Gibbons recently.
We did, man. When our first album came out, through a chance meeting, he got a copy of it, and he just started burning it out on the road and giving it to people. Buddy Guy, Jeff Beck, Jimmy Hall from Wet Willie is who initially told me about it. He's like, man, Gibbons is out here, burning copies of y'all CDs and giving them to people. So a huge honor, obviously. If you're setting out to be a blues rock band, southern rock band, there's no bigger band than ZZ Top. So just got to see Billy about a month ago and visit with him, which that was really cool. Always.
Did you tell him to stop giving your music away for free?
No, I always said do anything you want to, Billy.
So describe your stage show for everybody. What are you guys like in your live shows?
Well, very, very lively. There's a lot of improvisational moments. It's real rock and roll. There's no tracks. There's no hidden gimmicks. It's just four guys up there, playing off the cuff, playing off of what the other guy's playing. It's if you enjoyed seeing 70s rock bands, if you enjoyed Cactus, Humble Pie, Vanilla Fudge, we're that kind of performance. So come on out and hang with us. We'll be glad to have you.
Where can we find your music? Are you on all the streaming platforms?
We're on all the platforms. If you'll go to theotisband.com, there's a streaming, there's a link there to take you all the social media sites, streaming sites. It's all right there handy for you.
Otis is at Ground Zero Blues Club in Clarksdale, June 19th. Boone, it's great meeting you. Break a leg.
Thanks, man. Thanks for having me on.
Middays with Gerard Gibert continues here on SuperTalk Mississippi. I'm Scott Sands.
Middays with Gerard.
Good for America. Good for fans of justice and truth. Good for us.
SuperTalk Mississippi.
This is what we stand for.
In the Element Wealth studio on SuperTalk Mississippi, are you thinking about or planning for retirement? Do you have a plan? Go to myelementwealth.com or call 601-957-6006 to let Element you with a balance between income, growth, and happiness. myelementwealth.com. Quick look at the markets here after lunch. The Dow is up 147, NASDAQ up 131, and the S&P is up 18. A lot of the sectors are green today. There was PMI data, production data earlier today that did send the market up a little bit into a little bit of chop, but we're at least green so far today. I was talking with Borky earlier about the Indy 500, Rhino. Do you watch the race at all?
I'll probably tune in for that. I'm not the biggest IndyCar fan. I do enjoy it, but I'm a bigger Formula One fan. I am excited, though. I haven't found anywhere to stream it. Maybe somebody in the stands will be live feeding it, and I can watch it from that. But have you seen what's racing today?
Yes. That's why I brought up the Indy 500. The Carb Day tradition in Indianapolis is going to be lit today because they're racing wieners. The Weenie 500 with all 6 of the Oscar Mayer Wienermobiles. They're in one place for the first time in over a decade.
And they'll be going around.
I didn't know there were 6.
I didn't know there were 6 on the road. I mean, it makes sense. They can't all be at one place at once, and they're a popular stop or they're popular when they stop. But, yeah, seeing them on the track and racing each other, I'm sure it won't be quite as energetic of racing as we'll see in the Indy 500, but it's exciting to see them out there on the course.
First of all, I have driven the Speedway. They have a day in Indianapolis at the 500, the week of the race. I think I forget what it's called, Resident Day, Customer Day, something stupid like that. And you can pay a fee and take your own car out on the speedway and drive the track, which sounds like a horrible idea for liability purposes. But I've paid the $50 or $60, whatever it is, and done a lap on the Indianapolis Motor Speedway in my truck. And it is really unreal. They want you to stay on the apron. They don't want you to go up in the bank, obviously. And they limit your speed. Thousands of cars do a lap on the speedway. And it's quite an experience. It's really breathtaking. And you don't realize the size of the track until you get out on it, a 2.5-mile oval. So the Wieners, the Chili Dog will represent the Midwest. They've assigned teams, I guess, to the Oscar Mayer Wiener Mobiles. The New York Dog will represent the East Coast. The Slaw Dog represents the Southeast. The Sonoran Dog will represent the Southwest. I'm sorry, the Chi Dog, I guess for Chicago, is the Midwest, and the Chili Dog will represent the South, and the Seattle Dog will represent the Northwest. They'll all be in hot dogger racing suits, a finish line celebration in the Wieners Circle, and there will be a condiment spray and a hot dog for the champion, which certainly sounds well-deserved. So I think, Rhino, this is actually tomorrow on Carb Day, not today.
Yeah, that's right. It's on Friday. That's my bad.
2 o'clock Eastern, 1 o'clock Central, tomorrow, Carb Day, and it will stream on the Fox Sports app, and IndyCar on Fox social media accounts will have the live stream.
And if IndyCar is not your bag, Formula One this weekend's got a pretty special race. It's their crown jewel event in Monaco. Although the cars are a little too big to pass at Monaco, it's still entertaining to see all these people just flock to this tiny little place that's so rich with racing history and rich financially, because pretty much everybody there is a millionaire.
They've got money. When is that race?
That'll be Sunday morning, but the race itself, although it is the crown jewel of Formula One, is probably not what's going to get the most attention. The most attention will probably be Saturday for qualifying, because if you qualify on pole at Monaco, you got a pretty good chance of winning Monaco.
Yeah, because it just becomes a parade. But it does make it for a big weekend of racing with that. The 500, and Sunday night, right, is the Coca-Cola 600.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And I don't think there are any drivers doing both the Indy and the Coca-Cola 600 on the same day. That's happened in the past. But I don't believe the thing, and living in Indianapolis, I'll brag about the city for a minute. I don't live there now, but I went to the race every year that I did live there. And it's really all of the pomp and circumstance. And I don't know how much of the networks will carry of that, but the spectacle leading up to the race is just as enjoyable as the race itself to watch. It's a huge day, huge race, and there's, as you say, a lot of money on the line for the Indy 500, the Coca-Cola, and the F1 races this weekend. Gerard Gibert will be back here on the show live tomorrow. In fact, he'll be at the Mississippi Armed Forces Museum at Camp Shelby tomorrow to get us ready for Memorial Day weekend. Tomorrow, I'll be filling in for Richard tomorrow morning. We've got Archie Manning scheduled for the show tomorrow. We'll also talk to the state treasurer, state rep Jimmy Fondren, and more tomorrow morning with Richard Cross. I'll be sitting in here on SuperTalk Mississippi. Fox News is coming up next. Find me on X at Scott Sands Media. Have a great Thursday. Thanks, Rhino.
SuperTalk Mississippi Media Production.